Hey guys, today I'm going to show you how to test OTP multi-factor authentication flows using Selenium. Well, here you can see the typical flow in a MFA app. And MFA is becoming increasingly important in many sectors. It's compliant and secure, and it allows users to have a passwordless entry based on a second device. But traditionally, this has presented some problems for QA teams, IT administrators, and testers. Well, with MailSerp, which is a free service, you can create these devices on the fly in your tests, and it works with any programming language or test framework. The app we will be testing is a Vue app that uses Auth0 multi-factor authentication. I have it running now, and the application looks a little bit like this. It's just a sample project, and when we click login or sign up, we're presented with the Auth0 form. This form is quite typical for most applications. So if I sign up for a new account using an email address and password, the app will prompt me to connect a OTP device, such as Google Authenticator. So on our mobile device, we usually scan this QR code, and then we enter in the one-time password that the Authenticator app generates for us. But this can present a bit of a problem for automated tests and QA teams, because it means that any automated integration test needs a manual intervention to actually test the OTP code. Some teams tend to skip this step, but it means we can't verify the full authentication flow and security of our sign-up without testing OTP. So what can we do about that? Well, with MailSerp, a free service for testing these types of flows, we can create TOTP devices on demand and use those in our tests. So here I am in my MailSerp dashboard, and if you copy your API key, we can use that with a Java SDK to generate a TOTP device when we are testing. So let's take a look at an example now using Java and Selenium. So I have a typical Java application here, and in my POM XML, you can see a few dependencies. Firstly, we've added the MailSerp client, which we will use for generating email accounts, and our TOTP device. So in our end-to-end test, we have a setup stage where we pull in the MailSerp API key from an environment variable, and we set up a connection with our test application running on localhost. So why don't we run this test to this point, and then we can take a look at what's happening. So I'm going to create a test profile for this. So if I go modify run configuration here, and in here I've pasted in my API key from the MailSerp dashboard as an environment variable. So now if we run this and put a breakpoint at this point here where it actually creates an inbox, we can see how it works. So let's click debug. And we can see that Firefox has opened and the debugger has stopped. And if I open up the window, we can see our application login form here presented to us. So at this stage, to have an isolated test, we want to generate a unique email address for each test run and a random password. And then it means that every test we do has a unique isolated user. So we don't need to use our own email accounts to test this process. So that happens in the next step here, where we use the MailSerp SDK, Java SDK, to create an inbox, an expiring inbox after 5 minutes. And then we get the inbox email address, and we use a dummy password, and then we fill out this form. So I can probably just do this side by side here. And we'll put in that here. Okay, so when I step over this, we can see an inbox is being created now. We have an email address, and it is a randomized email address. You can see in that hover there. And if we keep going, we can see that in the app, the email has been used and a password has been entered, our random password. The test now clicks submit, and we're presented with a QR code. So at this stage, we want to debug that QR code and extract out a OTP auth URL. So the way that TOTP MFA works is this QR code is presenting us with a secret that is encoded within it. And this secret can be used to pair with a authentication device like the Google Authenticator. So if we have a closer look at this QR code, we can see actually that the QR code contains within it a special URL. We'll just zoom in on this. Need to adjust this a little bit. So you can see in the data attributes for this QR code, there is an OTP auth URL. And in our test, we actually have a selector here, which is looking for that URL and extracting the value. Now, there are other ways to do this. You can actually upload the QR code directly to MailSlurp or take a screenshot. You can also click this trouble scanning and it will present you with a secret that you can use to manually create the TOTP device in MailSlurp. So we're just going to proceed with the test now. And back to our test, we can see that we are extracting out the OTP auth URL, and we are then calling the MailSlurp MFA controller. So this is the multi-factor authentication controller that will allow us to create a virtual time-based one-time password authenticator device. So you can see here that it's creating it. Okay, and now we want to generate a code. So let's take a look at this code. We're calling get TOTP device code, and we're passing in our virtual TOTP device by ID. And we're saying that the minimum seconds until expiration should be 10 seconds. Because remember, these codes expire and we need enough time for our test to actually enter in that value. So we're going to say we want it to last at least 10 seconds. Okay. And then I will just put another, I'll put another breakpoint here just after that here, and we'll click play and we should see the code get generated and entered into our login form. So there it was entered and OK was clicked, and now we're presented with this authorization page where we have to accept that our account is going to be connected. And so we just click yes, and we are in, and we can see here that we are successfully logged in. Now, if I continue my test, it's going to assert that there is a logged in user and that the user has the right username, things like that. And eventually it will log out and try to generate a new login code. So now it's logged out. It's trying to log in again with the same email and password, and the application is asking us for the one-time code again. So here back in our code, we're calling the MFA controller get TOTP device code, and we're passing in the ID again. We want a 10-second expiration, and then we are going to fill out that form again. So let's do that now. We'll click play and see it take place. So we saw the code was entered and we're logged back in. So our test just passed successfully. And we just showed you how to test a two-factor authentication in Selenium end-to-end. This example just used Selenium, but you can find a lot of other examples in other languages. If you go to docs.mailslurp.com, you can see here a lot of SDK libraries in a range of languages and tons of examples as well. I hope that helped. See you next time.